Hey, what's up everyone? Huei-Yuan coming to you from Cupertino, California. Today is March 27th. Happy Friday, 2020, everybody. Hope you had a great week, the best of what you can make of it, and which I think is a lot. You know, I've been hearing from a lot of people from all over the country. What's up, Aroba? Welcome to the room. What's up, Chicago Gupta? Hi guys, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for joining the stream today. With lots of friends coming in. Been getting more and more messages throughout the week, which is always great to hear from friends and family and hear how everyone's doing. And if you're just catching the stream for the first time, my name is Huei-Yuan. I'm a professional musician doing weekly drum lesson streams as part of our community building practice. Even though we're practicing social distancing, I like to think of it as physical distancing, but we're still continuing to connect and hang and be with each other as we're dealing with the situation that is currently at hand. So if you're coming to the room right now, let us know where you're watching from. Say, hey, what's up from Houston, Texas, Cupertino, California, Munson, wherever you're coming in from, let us know where you're watching from. Let's just say hi to a few folks, and we're going to get into the lesson content pretty quick. Hi, Satria, welcome. Jackson, Fady, Nolaney, how's it going, guys? This dude, all right. Yeah, great, we got a nice little crowd coming in today. We're going to be covering a very important topic, and it's one that gets overlooked quite often, but it is also the problem from a lot of things. Happy Friday, Josue Mencia. Welcome to the room, Josue. And this is an exercise that is continuing on. This is part 4 of our timing week. We've talked about how to bury the metronome, playing ahead of the beat, playing behind the beat. We've talked about 3-note 16th note timing patterns, 2-note 16th note timing patterns, 1-note 16th note timing patterns, and moving things out of the unfamiliar into the familiar category. In yesterday's lesson, we talked about how there was no easy or hard. There's just familiar and unfamiliar. And today we're going to talk about triplet timing patterns, which you may have, know of, you've seen them before. Maybe your teacher has introduced them to you, maybe they haven't. But these triplet timing patterns are the ones that you see people playing the least often. And maybe you don't have time or it's not built into your drumline warm-up sequence, but these are definitely a set of patterns you should be practicing at home by yourself so that when you get into the line situation, you're not ticking the pickup of a triplet roll or playing the triplet check. You know, you've got people who can't even play triplet checks, but they're worrying about getting that roll clean together, right? And this is one of those things that you can make sure that you have in place as an individual so that when it comes time to play with other musicians, you're good to go, okay? So let me just check real quick to see who else is coming to the room and just say hi, everyone. Chicago Gupta. It's not triplet grid. It's going to be triplet timing. So it's a way of triplet timing. And Chicago Gupta, you're coming in from Dallas, Texas. That's deceiving. Chicago, but Texas. Both have very special places in my heart, though. Originally from Houston and then lived in Chicago for many years. Hello from El Paso, Texas. Clean Snare Gang. Oh, yeah. Come on in. Aroba. Yeah, guys. Hi. Bruno, welcome. Flow Cage. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is fun. And guys, if you're enjoying this content, do me a favor. Hit it with a like. Hit it with a subscribe. Follow. Share this out with your friends. This is one of those things where a lot of people aren't catching these till after the fact, which is totally fine. But you know, if there's somebody sitting in the middle of nowhere that is trying to drum and get better, this might be that social connection or that drumming motivation that they're looking for to keep working and building as we're spending the time that we do have at home. I should also mention, everything we're going to play today is available in this free handout, which is linked here on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. It's linked in my bio, but it's the second volume for my marching percussion playbook. Timing is Everything is volume 2, and all the exercises that we're going to play today are out of this book. So if you learn faster or you want that reference of some notation, I'll put it on the screen today as well. But it's also just good to have on hand because sometimes when you have something printed out, you can check off or make notes to yourself on the things that you need to go back and do. And it's just another resource you can add to your library of teaching resources. Okay, let's get to it. This is the topic today. Let's come over here into our music scene. And this is, let's pick up where we left off yesterday. So yesterday we talked about familiar and unfamiliar, right? And if we can zoom in here. I said this is the quote we talked about yesterday. There's no easy or hard, just familiar and unfamiliar. And then down here, we'll look at this first pattern, if I could pull it up properly. The first pattern is here, right? So we talk about these triplet times. Just quick pop quiz. Let's come in and see if you can figure out what does this mean. So the first bar, you have 2 count triplets, right? Beats 3 and 4. Okay, got that. Second bar, Oh, what does that mean? Okay, so I've got an eighth rest followed by chord note, and it's bracketed with a 3 over it. Okay, so that means that it's a triplet, and the first triplet eighth note is rest, and then there's a note, so that's on the, if you said 3 triplet, 4 triplet, it'd be 3 on the trip, right? This is one of those, the things that I've bounced back and forth. When I was growing up, I counted them as lolly, like 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly. Then I counted them as triplet, 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 triplet. And I think I saw a post once, I think it's from Drew, and he's like, triplet has 2 syllables. You can't make up triplet. I was like, okay, that's true. And so then I gravitated towards 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So the good thing about that way of counting is that you know exactly which beat. So you can say like the trip of 3 or the let of 4, right? So in this instance, if we counted 3 triplet, 4 triplet, this is the trip of 3 and the trip of 4. So it'd be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, right? And that would be with the left hand and the right hand. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. The third bar, we have 2 counts of check, triplet, triplet, or 1 triplet, 2 triplet. And then you have a quarter note triplet rest, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. Okay, so very slowly, let's play this together. And the key here is we just want to make sure that we have a baseline of where we're coming from. Everyone understands how this works, so that when we kind of get into the dicier things, you're not lost and I've left you in the dust. Okay. All right. So this is at 100. All right. Put this here. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Okay. And we'll play it a couple times through, so you get a couple shots at this. Okay. I'm gonna pull this down. And if this is your first lesson, just so you know, the format is we'll do this, and then there's always an open Q&A section at the very end that you can catch. So if you have questions that are not related to today's content, keep those on deck as well, because you can use those at the end of today's stream. Counting, 1 is 1 lolly or 1 anda. Oh, great question. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you count. You have 1 anda, 2 anda. The reason I don't use anda is because that can be very confusing for beginners, because you just spent a bunch of time saying like, hey, eighth notes are counted 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and you said these 16 notes 1 e anda, 2 e anda, and then all of a sudden we're doing triplets, which is 1 anda, 2 anda, and I want them to think of them as different things. I know like the good news is that it's familiar, anda, but I know that it's a different subdivision, which is why I use like 1 lolly or 1 triplet, 2 triplet. I'd also throw in real quick as a teaching tip, I tend to use syllables that they're familiar with. So when I say pineapple, like it's any sort of friction of like, I don't understand what he's saying. I just say, hey, pineapple has 3 syllables, pineapple, 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 pie for a quarter note. And young players and advanced players, older students that I've worked with, they understand what I'm talking about right away as soon as I say that. So pineapple, pineapple, pineapple is also a way that I've done it before. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's try this with a slight subdivision on for triplets, and we'll play 1 of each of those, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 3, 4, triplet, triplet, 1 triplet, the triplet, triplet, 1 triplet, 1 triplet, 1, 2, again, go. Triplet, triplet, 3, 4, triplet, triplet, ba, doom, ba, doom, ba, doom. Okay? So it's about getting each one of those, and the key is not to guess. Okay? How do you know if you're guessing or if you really know where those beats are being placed? You can reference the lessons from the last 2 days, but in short, this triplet beeping, that's our auditory graph paper. Auditory meaning you're hearing this the whole time. Even if this was off, in my head I still hear triplet, 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 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Right? And then I'm just playing the pattern. Right? So that I know for sure that I'm not guessing, I think it's here or I think it's there, and I'm just going to feel it, right? You have to know what it is that you're playing. Eventually, you will be able to, quote, feel it, but people who are feeling it they know that ba is what that's supposed to sound like. Doom ba ba. They know what it's supposed to sound like. And then another strategy, the third strategy, is that you're hearing the composite rhythm between the downbeats and the rhythm that you're playing. So in that second bar, because there's no downbeat being played, you hear 3 triplet, 4 triplet, doom ba ba, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, doom ba, right here, doom ga. I hear that in my head. And that third pattern, triplet, 1 2 ba boom, boom, beep boom, beep boom, beep boom, ding boom. Right, you hear that da, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Okay, and those are your like foundational, but single note triplet partials. For some of you, you're like, yeah, I got this, totally, no problem. For some people, you're saying like, oh, yeah, I've seen those rhythms before, but I haven't really practiced them. And today we're going to give you a framework of how you can systematically practice each of these so that you're never surprised. There's only a finite number of combinations. Now, how you mix them together, that's where it gets exciting, right? But you'll never be like, I don't know what this is that I'm looking at, right? You have to be able to know what it is that you're playing as you're getting through it, okay? Let's go down a little further. Let's see, how do I want to zoom this out? Okay, here we go. Okay, so then I kind of throw you in the deep end right after this because I'm trying to make a case in the book for why you want to look at these. This one is right, or but that won't surprise you also if you've played through the variations that we're going to go through today. Okay, so let's skip down, and this is, I'm scrolling through this pretty quick, guys, but this is the handout that's available for free as a free download today. So you can download it and kind of study it at your leisure. And then if you have any questions, you can hit me up with a direct message, or just go back and watch this video slowly again. Don't be afraid to come back and reference this video, whether you're sharing it with a student or a teaching friend or rewatching it yourself at a later time. I know everyone's super busy right now or getting things done. So if you want to catch the replay, that's great as well. I should also mention that any comments that you might have, you can drop those in the comments as you're coming through as well. Marching Vlogs, welcome to the room. What's up, guys? Hi, Mo. Awesome. Taz, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, let's keep going. So this first, let me come up here. This is important, right? And so many times, when I'm teaching, let's say most commonly this pops up if you're trying to teach a group or teach a student, okay, this is how you play a triplet roll. Right? And when I first started teaching, I'm like, okay, this is what you should feel in your hands mechanically. This is where you're putting a little bit more firmness in your fulcrum, or move your hands, maybe try a little bit more finger and more arm, and you're like trying to fix all the mechanics of it. You come to find that this student doesn't really understand how that feels and works, right? Like if this is the beat here, da, 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 and they're not able to line up their feet with and play that perfectly, maybe they've just kind of been guessing and feeling it. And right, I wish I should make a visual for this, but if you imagine that the beeps are happening like this, right, and there's a straight line that represents 100 beats per minute, right? Sometimes you'll have people who are like speeding up a little bit as they play. They go to like 105 and they come back down, and they drop down to 96 and they get back onto 100 and they speed it up, and they're dancing on and off that line of playing in time. And you've got to be able to just go do, 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 like a computer with your feet. 3, 4. If you haven't gotten that piece of the puzzle in place first, you're going to have some problems later on when you get to that, okay? Because that's harder than the previous step. So one of the things that I love about drumming is that it's all about stacking demand on top of each other. And so oftentimes I'll see like super advanced players, even at the world-class drum corps level, who come in and they're playing crazy things that are just like, they've got hands that are stronger and faster than mine, but then I'll like dig deeper, and all of a sudden I'll see these little cracks in their foundation, and I was like, oh, they don't know how to play 4 counts of triplets perfectly in time. Person next to them, because they're not even listening to the person next to them. Ooh, that's okay. We gotta work these things out. Okay, so that being said, let's look at drill 5. This is the flow version of the triplet time patterns that I play. I'll just play it through once and I'll explain kind of what we're doing. Okay, so this is drill number 5 with the repeats. Let me highlight this for the people on the screen so they can see what we're talking about. Let's just do this first one. Okay, and I'll play it 2 times through. And 1, 2, triplet, go. Two, again, go. Notice the right hand just continues through the whole pattern. The right hand doesn't stop. One more time. And okay, so the same things that we talked about with the 16th note time pattern apply to this as well, which in this instance, just pay attention that your right hand is flowing, meaning it doesn't stop, it just continues. We're just taking this out. So what you're trying to avoid is thinking of it as, here's one thing, here's another thing, going back to the first thing, and then here's a new thing. It's just one continuous. And I'm just teaching my hands how to bring the left hand in, drop it out, bring it in, drop it out, using that right hand flow, okay? The same thing happens in the next 2 bars. And typically you'll see this without this downbeat on beat 3. I introduce it with beat 3. It helps younger players, I've found. Like when I first introduced this, for many years I just introduced it as. And it would take, a lot of repping and explanation for my middle school students to understand. It's like, wait, you still want me to feel 3, but I'm not playing 3, and I found that if I just introduce it to them this way first, beats 3 and 4, and say later, hey, take out beat 3 and just play this. They're already used to hearing and feeling that beat 3, and it just shortcuts a lot of the misunderstanding that might take place as we're doing this. Okay, all right, so let's try this one. And same thing, left hand flows through this whole part. And triplet, ready, go. And 2, and. Another thing you can do as you're practicing these time patterns, and we're going 100 beats per minute, which is not too quick, it's not too slow, and gradually you don't want to just jump to 120. Even if you're like, I got it, Huei, let me just crank it up to 160. What you want to make sure that you're doing with the exercises that we've covered from last week and this week included is you want to stair-step your way through each of the tempo markings. So if we're at 100, if we use 8-beat increments, we could go 108, 116, 124, 132, 140, 140, on, right? Once you've done that, you can go back, and instead of doing like 4-beat increments like 100, 104, 108, 112, 100, that gets a little bit tedious. So what I would do is I would spend like, a week or 2 just starting at 100, 108, 116, 124, and then you're on a 4-beat cycle the following 3rd and 4th week. Start at 104, and then you do 104, 112, 120, 128. Because honestly, sometimes we don't have the luxury of going through every 4-beat cycle. But the bigger question, or the bigger point is, you want to make sure that you cycle through every single tempo in at least 4-beat increments. If you've done it at every 4-beat increment at some point, you've spent some time at each of those, you'll come to find that there are different challenges or tendencies at different tempos for each corresponding height. So for example, at 100, at this tempo, I now know in my body that I need to be very conscious of not pushing fast intentionally, right? It feels different there than when I play. In that instance, I'm being a little bit more intentional by placing every single note that I'm playing. What does it feel like? This might be too much if I'm trying to get as much sound out of it. That looks a little rigid. Okay, how do I back it off so it's still flowing? placing every note, and that's going to feel different at mezzo forte, mezzo forte, which will feel different at, you know, full out. So you've got to go through every tempo combination with every height. So the way I would do it is I would say, like, okay, this week we're going to start at 100. We'll cycle through all the 8-beat increments, and I'll be sure to play them at all forte. Maybe like the first day you're just playing it at forte to get a feel for it. And then later you start cycling through, like, okay, let's include some piano in these variations. Let's include some mezzo forte. Okay, so just include all these variations. Final words about this section. It's all about the flow. Being able to continue the right hand independent of the left hand, even though they are interdependent, they're working together, they're also functioning by themselves. And I'd also say that as you're playing, once you get comfortable enough with this, you'll be able to pay attention to just one hand at a time. So for example, when I play the second pattern, I'm able to play this pattern, but only look at my left hand. I'm not even looking at my right hand. I'm just looking at, making sure the left hand is not changing right there. Or when the right hand comes in, right? And then conversely, you should be able to look over at your right hand and ignore your left hand. Yeah, that looks good. Downstroke there, flowing, down. So you can selectively choose, like, camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, and just use your eyes and pay attention to just one hand. Ideally, you have a mirror in front of you. You're checking your slice as you're doing this. You're making sure that the left hand is playing just as high as the right hand. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can be paying attention to and working on. And even for the advanced players out there, this is a good maintenance exercise that you should be checking in with every once in a while. I have middle school and high school students cycle through these timing patterns. And once you get familiar, like once we get through the, hey, I'm learning how these exercises go, we've finished detailing all the exercises so they know what the expectation is for precise, accurate, flowing, quality, sound quality rhythms. And we're just using them as maintenance at the front of our lesson. Like 5 minutes, just bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. I already know which tempos they need to be starting at depending on what music we're going to be rehearsing later. Like 5 minutes of timing in each lesson so that they know what they're supposed to be doing at home by themselves. And, you know, it's like flossing. You know, if you floss every day when you go to the dentist, they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, look at all that plaque in your teeth, right? If you're doing your timing patterns all the time, they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, what's up with your check patterns? How come you can't play those in time, right? So a little bit a day does a lot of good. Okay, so in practice, we're looking at exercise 5 now. And we basically just go back and forth between these two. And this is super important. Let me just talk about this for a moment, which is if when you get to exercise number 5, you start folding, that means you didn't spend enough time in the drill section. So for example, you might see this. If I say, okay, let's put it in context now, here we go. And you weren't ready to go back into, you just might need another rep at it, okay? But if, for example, you see this, right. The student or you're teaching yourself, has broken twice in a row on that second pattern. What that kind of cues me is that you're not familiar enough with. It's not automatic enough. So you need to go back into the drill section and just work this pattern for like 5 minutes. And that's your work on that pattern for that day. And then maybe try to put it back into context within the exercise. If not, then just try again the next day, right? So if you make a mistake in the actual practical application, go back into the drill section, fix the issue, get more comfortable, more automatic with it, and then come back out to the exercise section. Okay, we're going to cycle through a few tempos here. This is exercise number 5. Don't forget to do it off the left, which we will do also. And then let's move through a couple of these, okay? 1, 2, triplet, go. Right hand flow, left hand flow, left hand lead, ready, go. Left hand flow, right hand flow, One of the questions you hear most often is like, hey, how do I make my left hand just as strong as my right hand? My left hand tends to be slower, it tends to be weaker, it tends to be lower. Play it off the left. But if you practice playing it off the left, then when you go back, it just evens everything out a little bit more when you go back to playing it off the right. Okay, this is 108 off the right and off the left. 1, 2, ready, go. Left, lead. If you want another layer of demand, you can add your feet to this and make sure that your feet are landing right with the metronome. Okay, a little faster now. So it's faster. You're going to move your hands faster. Feet have to move faster. Make sure your feet are right in the center of the beat with the mat. 1, 2, triplet, go. There's a checkpoint on beat 3 when you start the pattern. I do check in to make sure I'm with the metronome. Just be careful that you're not thinking of it as a new thing. It's really a continuation of those 2 counts of check up top. Okay, make sure you do that off the left as well. And let's do one more tempo. This is 124. 1, 2, triplet, go. Left, lead. A signal to yourself of how comfortable and how familiar you are with the exercise at various tempos is when there's a tempo change. Okay, so I don't talk about this in the book, but I should mention this, which is when you go to an audition camp and you see lots of really great players, one of the things that separates the more advanced players from the upper intermediate to maybe lower advanced players is, let's say we spend 8 reps playing at 120, right? We spend a little bit of time playing, right? And everyone's got it, and you're talking to everyone about flow and listening and blending and balancing. Okay, good to go. And he's like, okay, let's try a little bit faster. And you bump it up to 128. This is the crucial moment. For some people, it's like, yep, got it, and they nail it the first time. And then for other people, they do this. And I might have over-exaggerated it, but what happens is a lot of times people who haven't created that setting of 128 in their hands or their brains, they're not familiar with it, or they're just, you know, what I call like musically stubborn. They're still stuck in 120. They're not malleable. They're not flexible. They can't just go, okay, 128, no problem. They're stuck in 120 for even worse, like a few reps before they get to the new 128. Maybe like a step beyond that is they're slow to start. They get the first note, but their hand speed is too slow. They're still stuck at 120, so then they have to adjust to get to 128. Pro players, really advanced players who have done all this detailed self-maintenance work beforehand, they can catch the new tempo, the first rep, right out of the gate. So check yourself and see if you're able to do that with your timing patterns. Okay, any questions about this part? And then we're going to start moving into these 3-note, 2-note, and 1-note timing patterns. Let me see if there are any questions. Thanks for those hearts, Dermot Blue. I can see you guys tapping those out. Appreciate that. Hi Edson. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Hasmin. Hello. Hello. Hi Cam. How's it going, guys? Hi Jose. Thank you. A lot of folks saying hi. Just checking out the stream. Yeah, there's a lot of live streaming going on over the last couple days, which is great. I know a lot of teaching friends are kind of figuring this out. The advantage of streaming live is you get this live feedback, and also you don't have to worry about saving it, uploading it. It's just up in there. The downside, I think, is that, or not the downside, the limitation. One of the things that I like about produced content is that it is a little bit more trim and streamlined. I know I do a lot of talking in these streams, but I've gotten to the point where I'm trying to balance it between too much talking, not enough talking, playing. I think I should probably talk a little bit less and play a little bit more. But this is a long stream form. You know, we've got an hour together, so this is where I tell you all the kind of nitty-gritty details that I would mention in a private lesson. So you're kind of getting you're getting the full Monty here as we're doing it. Okay. All right, let's break into it. Any questions? If not, no worries. If you have questions for the open Q&A section, so like any questions that are not related to triplet timing for this lesson, hold on to those. I definitely want to answer them, and we'll spend the second half of today going through this open Q&A questions. Okay? All right. Let me pull back up this, and we're going to go into 3-note time patterns. Okay? So this is just like we're working through all the combinations. Okay? I'll play through each one once, and then we'll just put it in context. So the first one we're going to look at is here. This friend, let's back it back down to 120. Okay? And if this is too fast for you at 120, don't sweat it. Just slow it down when you practice this with the handout on your own with the metronome. Okay? So we have this, and then the pattern is da 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 pattern da da dum bum da dum da da dum dum dum. Okay? Ready, go. Check, pattern. Notice that the right hand flows through that entire section, just like the previous exercise. Let's play it off the left now, and oh, my bad. Ready, go. Okay, that's the first pattern. The second pattern, do that a few more times if you need to, and you can rewind it and watch and do that again. The next pattern is da 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 da. Dum da da dum. 1 2 bum ba da dum. 1 2 bum ba da dum. 1 2 bum ba da dum bum. 1 2 here. Go. Check. Pattern. If you play a double stop on the beginning of that, dum da da dum, that's your basic 3/2 pattern. And then we do it off the left. Okay, off the left hand. 1 2, ready, go. Okay, third pattern. 2, ready, go. So just like our previous exercise, the way I ordered them in the 16th note timing patterns is not the most common way that you see them, being 1 and followed by 1 and. The reason I do that is because I want all the right hand flow to be happening in that first line, and then I do 1 followed by e and so the left hand flow through that entire section. So I do the same thing here in the triplet variations. This second line that we're looking at here, this is all left hand flow. And now we're going to move into this this fourth variation, which is also all left-hand flow. Okay, let me scoot this over. Oh no! Come on, buddy, you can do it. Okay, here we go. So this one is a little bit tricky, and I usually stick the trickiest one at the very end. Tricky means the least familiar for most people, but this is the one where you've got to play on the the trip of 3, that first upbeat partial. And what most commonly happens for people who haven't taken a lesson with me or are still working on their flow is they'll play 1 triplet, 2 triplet, and they'll downstroke that last left hand, and then they'll think of it as a new thing on ba boop ba ba. But you notice that at this tempo, you can kind of get away with it. But in faster applications, you can't go. I can't even do it. Where you downstroke at that level. You have to flow that left hand right through that section, so it's. So if you see someone flow straight through this pattern, that means, without saying anything, like, okay, this person understands right hand flow, left hand flow, even though it's a syncopated rhythm, they breezed right through it because they understand when and where to use flow. Okay? All right, here we go. 120. 1 2, ready, go. off the left. Okay, in application, because we've got these 3 note groupings, and you'll see in a second that we won't have 3 for every variation. But now we're going to look at exercise number 6, and you play basically one of each as you're going through. So if you thought of those as the 2s, we just did the 2s, right? And now we're just going to do the 1s. So it's just one of each pattern. First measure is the first pattern, pattern 1. Second measure is 2 counts of check, pattern 2. Third measure, 2 counts of check, pattern 3. And then fourth measure, 2 counts of check, pattern 4. Okay? First 2 bars, right hand flow. Third and fourth bar, left hand flow. Make sure you see that and you're thinking about that physically and also looking for it as you're doing it. Okay, here we go. A couple times through. And 1, 2, here we go. Sorry, my bad. I looked at the wrong place. Let me pull this up real quick so everyone can see what we're doing. Almost. Sometimes I think, like, is it worth me doing all this scrolling and dragging? My goal is to make this readable and mobile as possible. So there's a little bit of delay, but I think in the long run it'll be useful. All right, one more time. I need an assistant AV production manager here with me. Come on, man. Are you serious? All right, that's as close as it's gonna get. Here we go. And did it to me again. It's like right on the edge of where it wants to scroll to the next page. I can't get this to work. It won't. All right, I'm just going to zoom out, and it's going to be a little bit small on the screen, but at least you'll get it. How about that? Why is it doing that? I'm having one of those things where, like, I know what I want, but I can't get it to do what I want. Okay, you're going to have to imagine the release. Here we go. 1, 2, triplet, go. Repeat. Off the left hand. Repeat. Okay, so that's where you do a sampler of each one, and as I watch students play this, if I see them getting caught up in the third pattern or the fourth pattern, or there's a hiccup between the second going into the third pattern, then I'll just isolate those 2 patterns. Sometimes I'll say, just play pattern 1 and pattern 4 and go back to back. All right, I'll put it next to something that they're familiar with something that they're less familiar with. I'll say, try to make pattern 4 just as comfortable as pattern 1. Or I'll just do patterns 3 and 4. So as a teacher, we're constantly just zooming in, fixing the thing that's the issue, zooming back out, assessing. Okay, there's a problem. Zoom in, fix it, zoom out, put it back in context. And that in and out is what you should be doing with your own practices as well, to be making improvements. Even though they're small daily improvements, over time they add up to be a big improvement over time. Okay? All right, any questions on these 3-note timing groupings? If not, we're gonna move through, I think, the next few a little bit more quickly in this next part. I think what is happening is somehow I have zoomed in. I hit the crop to fill button, so it was zooming. It zoomed in on the software that I'm used to stream and the screen, so that's why I was being a little booger. All right, let's just play through these a couple times, and then you'll notice that with the 2-note timing patterns, there's only 3 variations. Okay, and this is, if you're familiar with shups, you'll know that's 3-trip or 4-trip, and the second one is 3-triplet, 4-triplet, and then the third one is 3-triplet, 4-triplet. Okay, so let's just play through the first one. We'll play one of each, and then we'll put it in context. 1, 2, ready, go. Next pattern. Next pattern. So, a couple things to point out. The first one, just make sure that you're not changing between beats 2 and 3. It's just a continuation of the check. That should all look normal. And then you just need to replicate that on beat 4 off the left. That's the other advantage that I feel is underlooked or undervalued with these triplet timing patterns is, whereas in 16th note timing patterns, you have to play everything off the right and off the left, and we're doing that here as well. In this instance, you're playing every timing pattern off both sides because of the odd note groupings. So we're playing the timing off the right, we're also playing it off the left. So this is super helpful if you're also struggling with making your left hand just as strong as your right hand. This will be good for you because you can hear that. If you hear, you're like, oh, that's not even. Make that left hand just as strong as the right hand. In the second pattern, right hand flow. That's easy because you've got that strong anchor on beat 4. Pop goes the weasel if you're looking for something for your middle school students. And then the third pattern, use that left hand flow to help you with that first one. Composite rhythm, 3 foot to hand. So you hear that dupata, putapa, and fill it in. If you can play all these timing patterns that we're doing today with your feet, even if it's at 60 beats per minute or 80 beats per minute, you will start building, monster feet that will keep you grounded and centered as you're trying to play more complicated, fast triplet-y things, right? So this is just as much about building your hands and how you're lining up with the beat, but it's also about like, hey, let me program my feet to understand how upata, 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 upata works. Oh, okay, I know that one. That's easy. I've got downbeats. Dapa. Oh, I see. That's right with my feet on the downbeat. Let me go to that third one again. Oh, okay. If you've got this, then when you get to the other things, you won't be stumped because you'll know for sure that you can play all those patterns when it comes time in practice. Okay? All right, here we go. This is the exercise in context. There's a repeat, so we'll do it twice as we're coming through. Let me just make sure that this is coming up on the screen. This line's a little bit long, I've noticed. How do I... Let me see if I can widen this out. I'm still finding that elusive, like, perfect view where you can see everything on the screen on mobile. See, my screen is covering this now, but it's right at the bottom of the screen, and if I raise it any higher... Okay, I have another way I can fix it, but I was trying not to do it this way, but for this instance, because the exercise is sitting right at the bottom of the screen, we'll do that. Okay, so we're playing this bottom portion here, and we're going to do it with the repeat. Okay, so one of each pattern with the repeat. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. again, ready, go. Right in the center of the beat. Off the left, go. Again, make sure you don't blow the attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if you have any issues with any of those patterns, or you can't play it off the right and off the left, then just go back into the drill section and work whichever hand you need to, whichever pattern, do it right a bunch, so many times that you can't do it wrong. The magic number for my middle school teacher was 10. If you can do it 10 times in a row correctly, then you know you got it. And then put it back into context. Okay? All right, last timing pattern for today, and then we'll do a little bit of open Q&A section if there are any questions. I should mention that these exercises are not particularly sexy, right? Like they're not flashy and like, ooh, wow. Yeah, but this is the work that you don't see people doing behind closed doors by themselves, right? That when they get into that line situation or their timing is like nails, it's because they went through all this on their own when no one was looking, right? And also, I've encountered times where you get to a drumline setting, and especially when you've got players from all types of backgrounds, you have some players with like crazy chops, crazy hands, but they have some deficiencies in their timing. I've never been like, oh, I wasted all that time doing those timing patterns with the drumline before. You know, usually what has happened to me in the past is like we're playing something like, why is this section not clean? Like, why does why does Jimmy or, you know, some random name, why does that person always tick that release or blow the phrase coming out of the section, right? Why are they rushing or falling slow before the check, before they start the roll? It's usually because like they have weaknesses in their timing patterns. So it's a good investment up front, especially in the early season, and then maintenancing throughout to incorporate these timing patterns into your students' hands. Okay, all right, let's play through these. I'm just gonna move through them kind of quick. All rules apply. Composite rhythms between your feet and your hands. Let's go one pattern at a time. Come down here. Okay, the first pattern. This is deceivingly challenging. Again, 3, 4. Many pitfalls in there. You'll have people who come in early on beat. First, you'll have people change for beat 3. And they slam it or they do something goofy. Right? You just need a pure release on 3. And then the next most typical issue is people rush to beat 4. And they come in early on 4, so you've got to wait, bask and wallow in that space between beats 3 and 4. That's a full chord. You could drive a train through that space and place a note right on beat 4. And then the next most common issue is people rush the space from beat 4 to beat 1. They'll do this. It's like just a little bit early. So ask yourself, am I getting even sound throughout? Am I able to audiate? Am I able to count out loud as I'm doing it? 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 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 1. If you're missing any of those steps, that's where the cracks, as you start piling more demand on top later on, you're going to start to see cracks in your foundation if you're not able to do that. Okay? Next pattern. On the trip. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 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 1. Off the left hand. I'm trying to play something other than what I'm reading. Let me try that one more time. 2, ready, go. Again, go. Two, one more time. Yeah, I'm discovering something right now, which is technically when you play that 4 trip off the left, that left hand should be the beginning of the flow back into the check. I've never thought of it like that for some reason. Huh, I just made a discovery. Okay, so use that. Left hand prep should be just as relaxed as when you're prepping for the beginning of the note, and then that should flow right into the check as opposed to downstroke and then flow. Right hand flow. Ready, go. Okay, and then the next pattern. See, like, guys, I've been playing these patterns for I don't even know how long, and you can still make these little discoveries when you're self-practicing, self-developing. So, always getting a little bit better, connecting those dots. Okay, and the last one is just the third partial. I'm looking at this engraving now, and I think in hindsight what I would have done is I would have hidden those last 2 bars. I would have made this line the same width as just one set of patterns, so it's more clear that there's only 3 of these patterns, but it's this entire line here. You know, this is me critiquing my own work from a few years ago. But okay, here we go. Third pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you want to definitely hear the bikum, bikum. The composite with a 1, a 2, or a triple 1 trip. Let 3, let 4. Sorry, let 4, let 1. You want to hear that? Let 4, let 1. Bakum, bakum, right? And then this is something that I see all the time, like people who struggle with like 1, 2, 3, 4. Because they don't know what that is supposed to sound like. And I should have mentioned this sooner, but for all the time patterns, you can also practice filling them in. So you'll see this. The first pattern would be second pattern, third pattern, of course you do that off the left hand as well. If you can fill it in, then you know that you're really feeling and audiating all the way through. And let's cap it off. Exercise number 8, the gauntlet. Can you get through all 3 with a repeat, no breaks, with your feet? 1, 2, here we go. Again, 3, 4. So one thing that I can see and hear people doing is you're not using that flow in the second pattern. Don't forget that left hand flows right out of the check. Okay, here we go. Off the right again. 1, 2, 3, 4. off the left, go. Okay. Questions? It's kind of a lot of information as we're going through this, but I would wager that anyone that's watching this right now has spent more time practicing their 16th note timing patterns than their triplet time patterns, 3-note, 2-note, and 1-note. And it's going to come back to bite you when you get in a solo or line situation, because all this stuff is going to be the foundational items for when you play like... It's easy when there's a bunch of notes that you're just filling in, but all of a sudden you're going like da, and you have a pickup or a 1, 2, and I was like, oh, people can't feel ba ba bum or ba ding ba da dum, ding da ba go go go, dum ba da da, and they rush 1 da 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 da. So spend some time, do some self-assessing, and be really critical. One of the things that I mentioned about cleaning drum breaks, one of our special Sunday sessions, is you just have to elevate your level of expectation of how clean, how good, how precise, how consistent you have to be operating at that world-class level, okay? So as you're doing this, just keep checking yourself, video record yourself, get with the teacher, get with a friend, and be really honest about how you're assessing things, and you've got to really catch on to these little details. And then once you're able to do it right, awesome. The next step is to be able to do it 10 times in a row until you're a machine, and you know the mistakes are the exception as opposed to the norm. Okay, that's our time for today. So if there are no other questions, I'll take some open Q&A questions if there are some. What's up, Tyler? Thanks for those hearts, guys. Those of you who are starting to tap those outgoing hearts, really appreciate that. Thanks for tapping those as they're coming in. If there are some open Q&A questions, I can take a couple before we wrap. But that's pretty much going to be it. I'm going to say a few outro things as we're doing this. The Instagram feed is coming down to the last 2 minutes here. You're welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming into the room. Again, I just want to remind everyone that this download that we played out of today is available as a free download at huei-yuan.com/free lessons. And then also, if you enjoyed this, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, follow, share this out with a friend, tag it with a few friends, tag your students, tag your fellow teachers. And then just, a lot of people have been sending me direct messages after the fact, which are super, super nice. Any questions that you might have, do us a favor, just leave them on the video if you can, because then I can answer them in the video as well, and then everyone can benefit from those answers as opposed to me answering just in the direct messages. So thanks for those of you who have been sending those messages. You're welcome for all the messages. Hey, Braveheart Foundations, welcome. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys are doing well and coping the best that we can in the current climate. Let me know if I can help or do anything. I know Carl's been working with you guys as well, so let me know if there's anything that we can do for you. House musical instruments. Sam says, I heard you talking about your kids a few streams ago. How many do you have? Okay, so this is turning into an AMA. Ask me anything. I want to do an AMA, maybe like this week or next week, with all my free time. But yep, we've got 2 kids. My daughter is 4.5 now. I cannot believe that she's 4.5. And my son is almost 2 next month. So actually in a couple weeks. Yeah, a few weeks he's going to be 2. So 2 and a 4.5-year-old. So never moment over here for sure. Any other questions? Let me just check the Facebook over here. Christian, you're welcome. Thank you, Christian. Jari says, I always get confused with the 3 above 3 eighth notes and then 3 eighth notes connected with no 3 on top. Are they both played the same? Hold on. Let me see if I can process this. Instagram, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Join us tomorrow. Same time. Have a good day. Bye. Okay, Gerari, your question is, I always get confused with the 3 above 3 eighth notes. The 3 above 3 eighth notes, and then 3 eighth notes connected with no 3 on top. Are they both played the same? Okay, great question, Gerari. And the answer is it depends on the time signature. So let's say in 6/8 or 12/8, you would see 3 eighth notes beamed together with no 3 because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could think of them like triplets, but you won't see the 3 in there. Let's say we're just operating in 4-4 land though. In 4-4, you're gonna see the 3 with the bracket of some kind. The 3 with the bracket's gonna say like, hey, this is a triplet. You need to play these 3 notes over the space of 1/4 note, right? And then 3 eighth notes connected with no 3 on top. So if there's no 3 on top, that means it's just regular eighth notes. So you might see this if it was like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if you had like a rest on beat 3 and then 3 eighth notes. That's why there's a rest and then there's 3 eighth notes and they're beaming them together if they have like 2 beat beamings. When else might you see that? If you have like 3 and 4 and you need a rest on the and, there's like an eighth rest, they might beam those 3 notes together. But that's a little bit confusing because then you're like, wait, where's the downbeat? So engraving wise, I wouldn't recommend that. But you should know that with a 3 versus no 3, those are different rhythms. With a 3, it's a triplet. With no 3, then they're just regular eighth notes instead of triplet eighth notes. Okay, great question. Thank you, Jari. All right, that's our time. If you enjoyed the lesson, let me know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll do the same time, 6 p.m. Central. And if you have any questions in the meantime, send them to me in advance. We'll cover those in the open Q&A section. And then Sunday, I haven't decided what Sunday's special topic is going to be. I'm gravitating either towards like a foot thing, because feet would be a good continuation of all the timing stuff that we've been doing this week. We could also do maybe something on building speed, because I keep getting, I don't know why, but there have been a lot of questions this week about getting chops. Everyone is like, Need for Speed, Talladega Nights, Top Gun style. So maybe we could do a session on how to build speed. I still think like feet are, as a teacher, the teacher in me feels like feet are more important. So anyway, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a good day. We'll see you in the next stream. Have a good one. Bye.